Okay, so I want to talk about how parenting has basically gone extinct and the rise of the anti parent because it's starting to get really off how people are still acting, performing that parenting is hard when this should be the easiest time to be a parent ever because your kids are at school for 8 hours a day. Then they have after school activities and programs like the YMCA, sports, some elaborate like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. Okay. And then they have, entertainment like Chuck E. Cheese, Six Flags, where people basically watch your children. And then after that, you guys just stick a smartphone or tablet in their hand. And they have, video games, the internet, and TV shows and movies, which are basically, raising your children as well. Okay. Usually kids would sort of observe their parents and, sort of emulate them so they could know how to navigate in the world. But now it's like these video games, this media has even taken over that. Okay. And it's also, occupying your children as well. Okay. And then just like 40, 50, 60 years ago, it was a lot harder to be a parent because you didn't have something like washers and dryers, right? There was a lot more manual labor. But now you have all of this technology: washers, dryers, ovens, vacuums, dishwashers. Okay. And even a bit further ago, you know, people had to grow their own food, do all this manual labor, and raise their children, and they were fairly, decent, stable, contributing citizens. Okay. But now you just have to drive your car and you pick up food from the grocery store, pre cut food, pre made food, TV dinners, frozen foods. Okay. There's eating out, there's delivery. You just pop the stuff in the microwave or in the oven. Okay. So it's like, what do you guys even do? Especially stay at home parents. Society is raising your children, and that's pretty universal and basic. Of course, this is in the context of like sort of richer countries, but even one poor people have access to a lot of those things. But then there's people who have even more, like Alexa and Amazon 2-day delivery, and summer camp and Roomba vacuum robots, maids, nannies. How is being a parent hard? Society raises your children. Society takes care of your children. Okay? School, 8 hours a day. Teachers are raising your children. Okay? Um, at most, people are semi parents. There are no parenting is extinct. At most, you can be a semi parent. Okay? Because society raises your children, even down to our taxpayer money going to like these tax credits and that type of thing. Okay, at most you're a semi-parent. Maybe if you're like one of these people who are like off the grid, homesteading, homeschooling their children, growing their own food. But even then, it's like, did you buy technology? Where did you buy those seeds from? People are still contributing to you on some level. But then most people aren't like that. You guys are heavily dependent um, on this sort of societal support. Okay. It's just, this should be the easiest time than ever to be a parent. At most, you guys are semi parents. If you're a semi parent, shouldn't parenting be easier? You're just a semi parent. Okay. I'm not grasping how, or it's just amazing that how are you guys raising these spoiled, unstable people, these non contributing people, um, these these duds, right? Um, when you have like all of this space and energy, right? I just don't. How do you find the time to create spoiled and unstable people? Like it feels like you would have time to, I know, decompress within those 8 hours, especially stay-at-home parents. And I know some people are gonna be like, I don't have access to that. Then that's always gonna go back to poor choices. Like some people like will be like, some people don't have washers and dryers. That's why you should, you know, get a decent job or save up money before you have a child. So all of that is pretty irrelevant. What's happening is that there's this rise of the anti-parent. So at most you guys are semi-parent, but you don't even do that. You're just like an anti-parent. Okay? Do you guys know hear about when people are like they will send their kids to their grandparents' house and they sort of unravel all of that sort of discipline and structure that you have provided your child, right? They'll let them stay up all night. They'll give them all these sugar or things that they're not supposed to eat, and they'll spoil them, this, that, and the fourth. They just unraveled all of that investment in that child. That's what most parents do, right? Because society is watching your children, they're raising your children. There's again, I still don't. The education industry should basically be completely abolished, basically. But at least they provide some level of structure, boundaries, limits, discipline. But then you guys come in and you just unravel that all simply like by them going home at the end of the day. And then not just that, you have all this time and space and energy to be able to raise decent, healthy, stable, sane individuals, but you just do the opposite. Most of you destabilize your children due to like this abuse and bullying, right? Right? You see how people are like constantly singing the praises of therapy as if it's like oxygen, as if it's normal. This many people shouldn't be unstable. But that's all you guys do. You just destabilize your children. And or you just spoil them. It's like you guys have nothing else to do, so you just spoil your children. Okay? There's so many, even like these mass shootings and sometimes rape, it just has to do with being that people can be that it's spoiled behavior. People can be that spoiled, and that's all you guys do. Is it make crazy people and make spoiled people, and sometimes both. So many spoiled people, so many entitled people, right? Zero patience, zero discipline. That's all you're offering. It's the rise of the anti-parent. It's like as soon as your kid can start walking and talking, they should be helping you to put stuff away. They should be helping, right? Before they move on to something else. No, let's clean up together. Okay? When they're really walking and talking, they should be cleaning up their own stuff. Like, what do people say that's hard about parenting? They'll be like, the mess, they're so messy. That's just bad parenting. You can't say being parenting is hard when that's just bad parenting. You just created a spoiled. Why are they so messy? It's because they're spoiled. Like, they should be cleaning up after themselves. Like, why are you constantly cleaning? They should be cleaning them themselves. But people have just become these sort of maids for their children when they should be cleaning up after themselves before they can go. You're not going to onto something else. If you keep doing it, here's consistent consequences for that. You're grounded, no allowance, blah blah blah. But instead, people just throw out false threats. If you do that again, you're gonna get in trouble. They don't get in trouble. You just conditioned your kid to do bad things and that they will get away with it. You just spoiled them. And the worst part is that we have to deal with it. The rest of society has to deal with these spoiled, unstable people. Okay? Soon as if your kid's walking and talking, they can make their own sandwich. Right? How are there shows like kid top chef and they're like cooking on a hot stove elaborate meals and you're cooking for your 13, 14, 15-year old. Spoiled. They can cook for themselves. And it's not like it's sweet, it's not benevolent. It just feels good to nurture people. It's like a primal instinct. It's like this you nurturing euphoria that was animals have, primitive creatures, so it propels them to take care of their own children. It's like infatuation, right? We call it love, but it's just a primitive instinct that was meant to bond to animals so they stay together long enough to take care of their offspring. It's the same thing. That's why like so many parents want their it feels good to baby people, which is why so many parents don't want their kids to grow up. They want them to stay a baby forever. It's just selfish. It's like people are addicted to their own hormones or something. But if you're a baby, if you're you, it's like all these infantilized adults running around. And then there's just these unstable people because it's this bullying parenting, it's this spanking, it's this transfer of trauma. It's like this is not saying that people shouldn't have children. It's taboo to say, but some people shouldn't be having children. A smaller minority, but this is just saying a lot of people should be delaying having children because all of this is stemming from immature or traumatized people having children. Only immature parents abuse their children, take this sort of punitive bullying approach. Traumatized people traumatize people. Okay, resolve your trauma before having a child. Simply delay it, right? But of course, society basically promotes the opposite. You have shows like 16 and Pregnant, which as if that's not influencing people, and this romanticization of marriage, even though 50% of them end in divorce. Romance movies that always have these patriarchal, creepy vibes, and that are presenting infatuation, a primitive instinct as love and normal. Like people act insane, like stalking in these movies, as if stalking is romantic. No, you're just drunk on primitive biological responses, actually. Um, so it's normalized, but that's what you have right now. These anti-parents, either this sort of super over insulating, over sheltering, spoiling behavior, or this super aggressive, bullying, punitive type of approach. And sometimes both, right? You have this, everything is valid, super fluffy thing where it's like these adults who watch, that's producing all these adults that watch like kid cartoons and read children books and who can't handle like conflict or confrontation because they've been hyper insulated their whole life. That type of parenting, like acting like kids are like eggshells or something, or they treat their kids like punching bags and like they act like prison wardens in like some type of ghetto prison and beat their children, torture their children, um, emotionally terrorize their children. And then a lot of times it's just both. You guys, how do you find time to do that when society is raising your child? That's all you do is you're anti-parents. Yes, I know that there's more different pitfalls to this, right? There's so many choices, there's so many influences, um, that type of thing. But that's a bit false because this is still like some of the safest times. Like there's like this weird behavior, like people are putting their children on lockdown because you guys are watching like CSI and these 24 hours news cycles, even though it's the safest time to be alive. Put a camera in front of your house and let your kids play outside. can you do that, please? Instead of locking them away because you're afraid they're going to get kidnapped when that's the least time, when this is like the safest time to be alive. See, but then it always just goes back to poor choices. Like, so there's predators online and the internet, and it's like this technology influence. Don't let your kids have access. It was like this. It was like, don't let your kids have access to YouTube. Don't let your kids have access to TikTok. Like, it's all choices. Stop. Can you stop watching 24 hours news cycles and CSI? Why do you guys like watching murder and this stuff for entertainment, anyways? It's weird. Um, so it's just like bad choices, bad choices, bad choices, and it's just the anti-parent. How? How? Especially stay-at-home parents. Like you guys are abusing your children because they're so difficult and bad. You don't. How do you not? How are you so angry when you have like 8 hours to decompress while they're at school, and you still are irritated by them? That's not their problem. That's your problem. And then their irritating behavior is probably something that you conditioned in them. They're kids. They're like super moldable. Whatever they're doing, it's your fault. It's your problem. It's your issue. Like, I don't know what to say when there's like, this is like the opposite of what things should be. Your parent should be your guardian and your guide. Okay. Your guardian, that's just what your job to be as a parent, which is easier than ever. You're just meant to guide them until like you loosen the tether, like you guide them. Even that's like off, like you're not supposed to have close relationships with your dad or your mom early on, but then you're supposed to that orbit, you're supposed to gravitate from it away from your parents. There's like a lot of incestuous vibes coming from this sort of family values, family first type of thing. Not really. It's giving that person that was like date your daughters. That's the energy that it's giving. No, don't date your daughters. There's 7 billion other people on the planet for them to date. They don't have to. You don't have to date your daughter. Okay, but um, yeah, basically, like it's like the opposite. And you're supposed to guard them, right? But more, it's like your parent is your enemy. Um, you're hiding from them. They're not your guard. They're like your um, attacker, and they're not your guide. They're your they misguide you in everything. Okay, even these things that are make parenting more convenient, like video games. Cool, there can be educational video games. They're occupying your child. They're entertaining your child. Sometimes there can be like, you know, reflexes and that type of thing. But then you're letting your 8-year-old play Grand Theft Auto, which is like a criminal simulator where you can buy prostitutes, and then you're acting surprised how they turned out. Why couldn't you just simply? There's like a disconnection. Parents are just disconnected from their children. We more register these, and we shouldn't say children, children, children. We more register them like objects, like, oh, let me go check the garden. Oh yeah, the squash are going well. They're not vegetables. We emphasize kid and child too much. They're people. They're individuals. Like people will say, he's such a good kid. Do you mean he's such a good person? What does he's such a good kid mean? Like we've come into this thing where we're using kid as an identifier when it's just a description. Kid is just a description. It's not an identifier. A kid is not this different species of being, but we're registering them as these logical objects. So in this sort of subordinate, inferior way, and that's how people are engaging your children. I just don't understand why you people are having children when you don't seem to like children, when you don't seem to want children, when you don't parent. Y'all are so remote from parenting, but you're a parent. Like, it makes no sense. I mean, that's more of a rhetorical question because a lot of you just have children to have like a do over, right? A second life. They're your avatar. You worn yourself out, right? Drinking, partying, this, that, and the fourth. You worn yourself, and now you need a new body. You need a new avatar. It's like these, psychic umbilical cords or something that you're attaching to your children and you're living through them. They're not your own children, they're just your do over life. They're just avatars, right? That you keep in the fridge, the societal fridge. Like school is just a fridge for y'all, right? You just take them out when you want them, when you for the good parts, the fun parts. But otherwise, you just keep them in the fridge while we take care of them. Our tax, if you're not a teacher, your taxpayer money is still going to these schools out here teaching trivial factoids with no practical application. And that's like another thing where it's like, this is so, all these societal structures are not even healthy themselves, but you guys don't care. You don't advocate. You're not concerned about your own children. You don't advocate for your own children. Why are you letting them be in these soul draining schools learning trivial factoids with no practical application? 80% of that they're going to forget if they're not these higher logical types. Right? Instead, you just drug them. Like, I don't know why I'm not acting surprised that people can be so debased as parents. ADD, ADHD is not real. No one in semi-isolated tribes, no one in pre-modern tribes, no one in semi-isolated tribes have ADD or ADHD. It's just it's not organic for people to focus on. It's not organic to have so much overstimulation, and it's not organic to sit down and focus on something that they're not interested in for 8 hours a day when their organic selves are saying, hey, I need to be socializing and running around to, grow those athletic and social parts of myself. Instead of disciplining your child, setting boundaries and consistent boundaries and limits and consequences, you just drug them. You don't care that schools are completely pointless. They don't teach anything practical. Um, People driving is such an important part of our lives. Driver's ed should be completely integrated into these schools starting at 14, and then driver's ed should be 2 years, right? It's not just so many 6-year-olds don't die just because it's just immaturity. They're the new drivers. They're unexperienced. If you're new and unexperienced, you're going to die. Like your own children, there's potential for your children. There's all these ways to reduce these children deaths, but you don't care. And you can see this with the school shootings, right? We can put we can put guards. We give billions in foreign aid to all these other countries. We've dropped $1 trillion in Afghanistan for nothing. Okay, we're giving all this money to Ukraine. Why can't they take care of themselves? That was preventable. Another manufactured weapons of mass destruction war, whatever. We can post, there's all these, we have 800 military bases all around the world, and they just sit there doing nothing, eating fast food, playing Netflix, having fun, having orgies. Close some of these bases, put these, and have some guards in these schools. Every single school could have 3 or 4 guards and security guards to protect people from mass shooting. Y'all, why did you have children when you don't even care about your own fucking children? Like, us as a species, like it seems like we're just a failed species. There wouldn't sometimes you feel like something wouldn't be lost if we just went extinct. I'm just hoping that this sort of modernity is a failed experience because we are behaving in this very inhuman um, fashion. It's like completely upside down, completely opposite. Your parent is your worst enemy, basically, when it should be like the opposite. Okay, what are y'all doing? And then give me back my money. This is getting ridiculous. I want my money. Like, everything needs to become a choice. Like, isn't school, why do our taxpayer go to these schools? Isn't it important that people have that? No. You look at Utah comments, people are more ignorant than ever. There's no return on an investment. Okay. There's no I stop giving my money to these child tax credits to these breeders, right? They have to bribe us to breed. I don't. I'm not having children, so why is my money going to people who aren't even raising their to anti-parents? Give me my money. Stop putting my money in schools. They're pointless. Nothing practical is learned in these schools. Um, give me my money.